different priorities.
Hi, I'm Bec from Be Free Emotional Fitness Training, and I support women and girls to become emotionally stronger.
And I'm Vern from Move Forward Mentoring, and I specialise in male mentoring, helping boys and men find their passion, speak from their heart, and build better relationships.
And together we are Rekindling Relationships. We work with couples through mentoring sessions as well as facilitating communication and creative workshops to build deeper connections.
Welcome to our podcast, designed to help you strengthen and bring more fun into your partnership, as well as create a more loving, healthy, and strong connection.
Hey everyone.
Hey, how are we going?
So this one's about priorities.
Different priorities and how people prioritize their life, what they choose.
What's your priorities? What's your partner's? Are they similar or are they very different?
And sometimes I think there are some priorities which you can get away with if they're a bit different. But then there's others which maybe are non-negotiables. I don't know.
Yeah, I think some are harder to find a common ground or compromise.
Yeah, like chores. Like I seem to do way too many chores around the house.
Oh, I'm glad we're having this conversation now.
I want to be like the children where I'm just like, when I say, do your chores, do your thing, they look at me like, I'm not getting paid for this.
What, you're asking me to do something?
What am I doing? Hey, why are we even having a conversation right now? They always do. They always look
My life is so hard. You're making me do something.
Yeah. Oh, I've just got to put away the dishes? Like, really? Ain't nobody got time for that. But I mean, there are definitely relationships. You get one person who...
It's very imbalanced.
One person who's really focused on that and they think that's important, and another person who's not, someone who's just like, oh, whatever, why do I need to clean the bathroom?
Yeah.
Or, the dishes, we'll get to them.
Have you found yourself in situations where that's created big problems for you in past relationships?
In regards to chores, I feel like I've been in a lot of relationships where I've done the bulk of the chores.
Very industrious around the house.
Yeah, I like a neat house. I think my mum brought me up to have a very neat, organised, clean house.
Yeah, you don't
and I
expect
like that.
people to be waiting after you, that's for sure.
No, not at all. Some of the things I do really well, I think, is I do the dishes, and that was because...
Great at that.
I was a dish pig at Pizza Hut when I was like 15, 16 years old, and washing pans full of cheese and crust for like 6 hours a night. So
dish pig. What even is that title?
I've never heard that.
That is so good.
If you're in hospitality, everyone knows it.
Pig.
Yeah. Everyone knows in hospitality what a dish pig is.
Hope you wrote that on your resume.
Yes. Yes, I did a couple of years as a dish pig. So I love that. But when my mum used to want me to vacuum, I hated vacuuming. I hate the dust. I hate breathing it in. So it was something I didn't want to do. So sometimes in this house, you definitely do more chores than I do. And when we look at the balance of what we do, it sort of works itself out even anyway.
Because you do other stuff to do with business and work and things. So I tend to pick up on that side of things. It's not something that bothers me because you do step in and do the dishes if I've done the dinner. So I think it's very even for us.
Yeah, and I won't just expect the washing basket to be emptied and cleaned.
Yeah.
I don't expect things to be done. I'm sort of used to...
And you're very appreciative. Like if I do stuff, you're always like, oh, thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah, but I think it's important for me to acknowledge that because you are doing something for the house. But if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to do chores, that's got to be a conversation, doesn't it?
You can get quite resentful if you feel like you're always tidying up after people, and that it's a conversation, isn't it? It's a hard one.
Maybe if you're sitting there listening to this and you're like, do I do enough around the house? If you're not thinking that, have a think about it, because if you're doing nothing or you're occasionally just getting up and picking your undies off the floor and the other person running around doing everything.
Or your partner's picking your undies up.
Then eventually that partner is going to get resentful, not want to actually do the things for you.
Yeah, they're not your parent.
No, they're not your parent. And you wouldn't want them to be your parent either, because that would just even be worse, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What other priorities do you think people find challenging and are different in relationships?
I think work, how we prioritise work.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that happen for you?
I think this is something that people that identify as men tend to get a little bit wound up in, becoming quite work focused.
It's a good way to avoid dealing with other stuff. It's a good distraction. Also, there is a sense of purpose in work. And I think depending on how you're brought up, you might value work more than other people. But then they can be imbalanced as well.
And I have found myself in a relationship where I felt at times, and I'm all for people having a good work ethic and working hard. I think that's a really good quality that people can have. But I've been in relationships where I felt that work has been a priority over the relationship.
And then what happens when the work becomes a priority of the relationship?
The relationship suffers.
Starts missing out on time.
Yes, that time together, yeah.
And also there's a disconnection, isn't there?
Yeah. What about leisure and recreation?
Yeah, some people have different versions of what that means for them, don't they? Like, one person might go, let's go to a tropical island so I can just sit on the beach and get a suntan. And another's like, no, I'm going to be in the water scuba diving and surfing. And so there's a different priority there, isn't there?
Yeah, and even a bit less extreme holiday, more on a weekend basis. You might find that your partner wants to go out and just spend time with friends going out and not you. And therefore that can also create conflict.
Yeah, especially if you're, say, different in the sense that one person may be more introverted or one person more extroverted, and your version of leisure time might be very different. You've got to find some way to meet in there. And that might mean that you have to explain that to the other person and say, you know what, I really don't like going out all the time. I don't like going to pubs when it's really noisy. Or I don't like sitting at home on the couch just watching Netflix series or watching, a series of Breaking Bad every night. Because
hey, that's not get negative now.
We've come into the series quite late, but Bec's a little bit obsessed.
There's nothing wrong with that, just saying.
No, not at all. Like a teenager trying to work out
It's
a screen
an important
time.
priority.
Your screen time we got a problem with. That's that priority.
Not having this conversation.
Okay.
No, the other thing I was thinking too that can be potentially quite confronting for people is when one's ready to have kids and the other's not.
Ooh, that's an interesting priority, isn't it? Yeah, when one says this is the time and maybe the other one doesn't ever want to have kids.
Or it's just not a priority right now.
Yeah.
They've got other priorities like
Yeah,
study at uni or a career or whatever
Family
it be.
or something else. Yeah.
Or they might feel that they want to do it when they're older after they've travelled. And so that can potentially be conflict between couples as well.
It's a really interesting balance that we have to ride between conflict and compromise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we both work out what we both need in that space through a conversation without being conflict where I'm right and my needs should be met and yours shouldn't.
No, it's about coming to a compromise, isn't it? But also be okay with your decision, because you don't want to say, okay, I'll put off having kids for you and then be resentful about your decision and be resentful to your partner because you made this decision. So that's a very fine line too.
Maybe it has to be an ongoing conversation rather than, we made a decision, now we don't have to worry about it for, a couple of years.
And that's it. You can always reassess the situation a few months down the track. Any of these topics, really.
Yeah. And if your partner does prioritise having kids and you're not ready, then you need to explain why. What do you need to be ready? Because then there's understanding in that. That person can be like, oh, okay. If I can see it from your perspective with empathy, then maybe I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Another priority could be how much time you spend with the relatives.
Yeah, not everyone wants to hang out with their in-laws. No. Some of us quite luckily not to have in-laws.
Win-win on both sides.
How do we swing that?
I don't know.
Another one might be how you are with alcohol and drugs. You might prioritise having a drink.
And your partner might be quite triggered by that. They might have had family that were alcoholics and they might find that quite confronting, that you think it's important to have a drink on the weekend, or how much do you drink can sometimes be an issue.
Yeah, and if you haven't had a conversation about why that is, what's going on for you, what's making you drink so much, then maybe that's going to create more problems, isn't it?
So what are our tips for people out there that are struggling with their priorities being very different?
Mismatched priorities. What do you do when you have different priorities? What do you think?
I think obviously it's always down to a conversation, but go into the conversation with the view of compromise and a win-win, not a I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, because as soon as you make someone else's priorities wrong, then they're not going to listen to you, are they?
There's always a compromise, I think. If something's so important to you, like having kids, and the other person really never wants kids, then that could potentially be a make or breaker.
Yeah. But if you are struggling to actually have these conversations because there's conflict arises, then you might need someone to help you. You might need a mediator, you might need counselling.
Mediator's a great idea.
Yeah, you might need a mentoring service, and that allows you to actually...
Rekindling relationships. Just saying.
Nice plug. And that allows you to actually have someone help you to have these conversations if you've never had them before, because these are vital conversations.
They're tough conversations.
We don't always like having tough conversations, but I think when we do, and I'll speak for myself, I don't like talking about some things that we talk about. And I have to force myself into that space and say things occasionally and be like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I want to avoid this. It's so much easier. I could just avoid this. I'll just go and find something else to do. I'll go in the shed. I'll go for a walk. There's something needs
fixing. I can find something for you.
Something needs fixing. I've done that before. But I do recognize that when I actually sit down and talk to you, understand me better and I understand you better and I know what you want, and it just makes things easier in the long run.
Yeah, and if there's love and commitment there, that's what you want. You ultimately want each other to be happy and it to work.
And to feel more safe and more trusted and more connected.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another Ways We Are Different. Chat to you again soon.
See you later. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and follow us.
And check out our website at rekindlingrelationships.com.
Bye for now.
See ya.